Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet?
I love people as I meet them one by one. People are just wonderful as individuals. You see the whole...
My great aspiration, my greatest ambition is to be so good. Now, in that way, I'm tiresome, as I suppose, to live with, because I want to be a fantastic human being.
I am the greatest. We're not disputing that, Cash. It's how does Sonny Liston feel about it? He can't feel but one way, and let's take everything I say and like it. Because February the 25th, I'm going to take back my job. I'm the champ. He's no champ. He's a tramp.
When you see men fall, don't laugh. Learn. Learn. Because you're on your way up. And the things that tempt people to fall, you and I are not free from that temptation.
What's going on, people? Can we have a heart-to-heart? Blessings, praise, glory, and honor to the Most High. The first and foremost, I thank y'all for taking time out to sit as we have this conversation. It's not really going to be comfortable. And you might not like a lot of the things that I say personally, which is fine. But it has to be said. I got Sydney in the building. I'm going to bring her up. We got to talk about this. Let me go ahead and get her up here real quick before I even go on my own tangent. If you have anything that you want to share in the comment section, go ahead. If there's information that you might know on this case or this situation itself, I'm all ears. But my thoughts and prayers go out to everybody out there in California right now. Sydney, I'm bringing you up. We got a lot to talk about. I thank you for sharing this with me.
Absolutely. Hi. I usually am not on Wednesday, but I really wanted to come on and talk about what's happening right now in Los Angeles because it's affecting a lot of people. And I really wanted to talk about it, not only to discuss the fires themselves, what's happening in case anybody is not aware of what's happening. Maybe you're not getting the right information or you don't have access to the information. But I also want to give safety information as well, how to handle an evacuation, how to keep yourself safe if you are in a fire zone, whether or not you are affected by these fires, or maybe you live in a different region and have never experienced this before. But I really, really wanted to share information on how to keep yourself safe and how to keep other people safe in situations like this. So yeah, that's why I'm coming on today. For those of you that don't know, there are currently multiple fires raging in Los Angeles right now. Most of the fires are actually located in pretty highly populated areas. The main fire that's been in the news is the Palisades fire. That currently is up to 15,832 acres, and that was updated roughly 2 to 3 minutes ago. There's also the Eaton fire, which is a little bit more inland, and that one is located near Alhambra, Arcadia, and I think Glendale. And like it's between Burbank and Arcadia. And then there is a third fire that's growing called the Hearst fire. And the Eaton fire is 10,600 acres, and the Hearst fire is currently 700 acres. And that one is located near Sylmar and Newhall, California. These fires are extremely dangerous. One of the aspects I wanted to talk about is what's causing these fires, because a lot of people might not understand the severity of what's happening. Currently, we are in a La Nina year, which, because of the way the currents in the atmosphere and the heating, the uneven heating of the land versus the ocean, during times of La Nina, the ocean is just slightly cooler than normal. And so this allows winds to rush in and over the mountains. And so that is actually what's fueling these fires. We are having what are called Santa Ana winds, and they basically like rush over the mountains, almost like a river of hot air. And that is what is driving these fires. The individuals that are experiencing this fire, the conditions are extraordinary. They're having like 60 to 100 mile an hour winds in some areas, which are driving the flames into these communities. And that, of course, when flames are moving that quickly, it's forcing people to evacuate almost with no notice at all. I know one thing that I've noticed people talking a lot about is the lack of firefighters. That is something else that is contributing to the severity of this fire. Obviously, California is a gigantic state. We have a lot of wildlands, and currently we do not have enough firefighters to handle the amount of the acreage of fire that is out there. They have been sending firefighters from other parts of the state, and I believe they've also started calling them from other states. Arizona, I know, is one of them. But I really, really want to emphasize, if you are in these zones, if you get an evacuation notice, if you get a red flag warning saying that you're at a high risk, you're in location, you might be, maybe you don't see the flames yet, but you are locationally close, please keep up to date with these fires, because the conditions can change very, very rapidly. Over the next 2-3 weeks, we're going to have a lull in the wind in the next couple days, but around the 15th to the 20th, we're going to have a pickup of wind again, which could further make these fires worse. It could cause other fires. These particular fires, as I said, are spreading incredibly quickly. And because of this, it is, by the time the firefighters are showing up to some of these locations, the houses have already been burning. And so a lot of time they haven't been able to actually save a lot of the houses. We probably are going to see a lot more damage this time around because it is largely through neighborhoods, through communities, through farmlands where they have livestock and animals. If you are in these areas, make sure you have an evacuation kit. Make sure you have 3 days of food and water. You should have blankets, changes of clothes, medications that you need, important documents. If you have pets, make sure you have their documents, food and water for them as well. If you have children, make sure you have diapers, toys, books, whatever you might need to occupy them during that event. And make sure to leave these items in a one container or 2 containers that are very easy to grab and go and put it right by the front door, because in these types of situations, you can be surprised. You can not see any fire and overnight it shows up like that. So it is very, very important if you are in these regions to be up to date with the progression of the fire and take those evacuation calls seriously. One of the other things that the fire department has been recommending for people and urging people to do, one of the huge problems they've been dealing with this time because of the speed of evacuation, because of the speed of these flames, many people who are evacuating in their cars had to get out of their cars and flee on foot, which led the roads to actually be blocked by all of these cars, and they had to bring bulldozers in to move all the cars out of the way. If you are evacuating and you're forced to leave your car, make sure you leave the keys inside the car, because that will enable the fire department or parks or whoever is there to move your car out of the way. That way they can facilitate bringing the services that are needed through. Also, another thing I wanted to mention, for anybody that might want to go and watch, go and drive and see what the fire looks like, see what the damage was, do not do that. Number one, you could be putting yourself at risk. Obviously, if the fire's nearby, you could accidentally get caught in that. Also, you are putting other people at risk, because if you need to be rescued, that is one more person that's not going to be able to get help. So if you're not from the area, do not go into the area to see what it's like, and I would highly suggest not going to help right now, because they really just need to get people out of the way first. And then once this fire has been contained, that's when more of the resource type of action will be helpful. So definitely do not travel through these areas. Do not visit these areas right now. It is not safe. The smoke is going to be extremely bad, especially in the Inland Empire where it drops into the valley. The smoke can settle. So those of you that might have asthma or respiratory problems, it might be beneficial for you to temporarily stay out of that area. If you're not able to, stay inside your house. Do not turn on ventilation, close all the windows, and try to limit your time outdoors, because the smoke inhalation can be just as deadly as the fires themselves. Obviously, when things are burning, it's not just burning wood. You're burning everything that's inside the house. So there's chemicals, there's gases, there's all sorts of different disgusting things that are burning and being released into the air. And that can obviously cause damage to you, to your breathing system. So if you do have to be outside in those areas, try to wear a mask, because that will help prevent at least the large particulates from affecting your lungs. So far, two people that, at least from, I checked at 3:00, 2 people have unfortunately passed away. And I believe the numbers are roughly around 30,000 to 40,000 people have been evacuated from many of these zones. One resource that I really want to suggest for anybody that either has family members that they want to stay up to date about, or if you actually live in the regions, there's an app called Watch Duty, which is the app that firefighters use to coordinate the locations of these wildfires, to find where the perimeters are, and to share what the information about that fire is, the containment, the size, whatnot. Also, it shows the direction of the wind, and there are also they have cameras as well, so you can see video feeds of what's happening. And I really like this one because it's actually real-time data, because it's used by the firefighters. So this information is updated every 1 to 3 minutes. So it's very, very up to date and very accurate. Especially if you're in the evacuation zones, you want to have that type of information, because what they've been finding is some people who are evacuating from one zone end up evacuating into another zone that ends up getting evacuated. So it's really important to know where your safe locations are. And they also have resources listed for you, shelters for yourself, shelters for animals, and medical facilities that are still open and offering services to people that might be affected. So yeah, Watch Duty is a fantastic app for anybody that needs this information.
You heard it. I hope that helps somebody.
Absolutely.
As I gotta be honest, when you sent it, I was at work.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't aware of it. I came home, went to YouTube because that's where everything is. I typed it in, and you have 20-minute videos, you have 5-minute videos, you have 10-minute videos. I looked at least 7 to 8 different ones, and in all of them, I have never seen something like this before, ever, where it looks like a movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to believe that this is actually, like, in one video, the reporter is standing in front of the house, is literally on fire, and you can see bits and pieces of the house crumbling right in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's quiet. It's
Mm-hmm.
deafening. There's no one there out there.
Mm-hmm.
You barely see firefighters. You might look down the block and you might see a fire at another residence. You might see firefighters at another spot, or you might see neighbors getting buckets of water from their own pool trying to put out the fire that's next door. I've never seen anything like it. And
it's actually hot enough that the grass and the land in front of the fire is spontaneously combusting just because of the heat coming off of the fire. So it's the fire's basically like jumping across the land, because part of the reason why it's so severe is the last couple years we have had a lot of rain and not very many fires. And so there's a lot of vegetation that's built up. But because we also had a very scorching summer, all of this vegetation is extremely tinder dry. And that makes it highly, highly flammable. And because you also have the trees, it enables it to basically jump to the houses more easily. Grasslands are slightly easier to fight because the fire obviously doesn't come up as high. And so it's easier to send in ground crew, just drop flame retardant. But trees are so much more difficult when you fight those fires because not only do, as I said, they bring the fire up higher, it can also create flammable fumes above the trees that can basically burn the air above the forest itself. But the trees themselves can also like explode because of the sap and the water inside them. So it can make this fire have more extreme behavior. Not to mention when a lot of these homes are what firefighters call, there's a lot more wildland interface where you have the homes and then you have the forest right next to them. These are areas where people have put their homes because of the beauty of the region. Okay, give me 1 second. All right, this is not the show for this.
Hey, Greg, I didn't realize it was that bad either. I'm like I said, she had to tell me about it. And then when I got to it, it's 30 different videos in different areas, busy areas, where people are either they abandoned their cars because they couldn't get out fast enough and they had to leave it behind. It looks like everything that we watch in real time. But I want you to finish what you were saying because you're speaking from a more scientific aspect. So I don't want to cut your knowledge. Go ahead.
But yeah, so because there's a lot more
you were talking about
the wildland interface. Because a lot of these communities are literally like built into the mountains and they have prioritized maintaining the natural ecosystem, they have a lot more vegetation around them to burn. So they're able to creep more easily into the suburbs because you have the outskirt homes and they basically it then jumps from house to house once it enters from the households that kind of back the wild land. And I do want to mention, I've heard, I think I kind of started talking about this, but I've heard some people saying that the firefighters are prioritizing rich people's homes and the firefighters are not trying to put out the fires, that they're just standing by and watching. There's three reasons why it might appear to be that, but it is 4 different reasons. First of all, if a fire or if a property or house or whatever it is has burned enough, like once it has sustained a certain amount of damage, there's nothing they can do. And so they're just going to move on and try and save the next house. If they come and they see your house already burning, they're not going to try and put out your house, because in fires this severe, the point is to save lives, and they are not going to want to waste their time on properties. They're going to want to move on to the next houses that have not gotten set on fire yet to make sure that everyone's out and everyone is safe. That being said, we also, I'm going to let her do her thing. You also want to make sure that if you are in these evacuation zones, please do not try and stay and save your house. It is very, very, as I said, it is very dangerous. It is a fast-moving fire. It is extremely hot. And if it comes to the point where you realize that you aren't safe, it will be too late for you to get out. And you might not have the opportunity to escape your home. There are things that you can do to protect your space and prevent do your best to prevent the fire from spreading into your home. If you do have to evacuate, make sure you close all of your windows, because it can kind of like suck the flames into your house if you have your windows open. Another, it a lot of times it can kind of get sucked up into the rafters of your house. So make sure you turn off any ventilation systems, air conditioners, fans, stuff like that, because that will blow the heat and the fire into your house. Obviously, as I'm pretty sure most people are familiar, make sure you don't have like vegetation around the walls of your home. If there are obviously, if the fire is affecting you right now, this doesn't count. But for anybody that might be in nearby areas, cut the trees away from your roof. Make sure you don't have branches that are touching your roof and overhanging into those into the and remove leaves out of the gutters as well, because any plant matter that's around your house or on top of your house is just going to catch on fire as soon as it hits that heat, or if it picks up any of the embers that are flying even miles from this fire, it can set your house on fire. There are a couple satellite fires that have since been put out that were caused by embers from this main fire. So there is the risk that this fire could jump to cities farther away, even if the main fire isn't actually near you, because the embers can hold their heat for a very long time. And you can definitely have fires, what they're called spot fires. You can have those forming miles and miles ahead of the actual fire front. So just do your best to remove any flammable materials from the outside of your home, the top, the roof. You could also water it down with a hose, but in this type of fire, it might not be as effective, but it is an option if you have a large source of water nearby. Some people have ponds or something that they can, or a pool they can use, but if it's just your house, I would not suggest trying to put out the fire, because once that fire hits your area, likely the water is going to get shut off or is going to turn off on its own because of the damage of this fire. Because I believe, I don't know how the water systems work, but I'm pretty sure there's something about like if there's too much heat, like the pipes will break and stuff like that. So you can't guarantee that you'll have access to water. And then, as I said, these firefighters are stretched thin. This is a massive, massive fire. And it's because it's a very mountainous region, it's not straightforward. It's not very easy to get into these areas. Some of the roads are blocked off. Some of the freeways are closed. So it can be very challenging to get to individuals in need. And so you definitely don't want to wait it out thinking that someone will come to your rescue, because at this stage, they're not going to be able to get to everyone. And you do not want to take your chances, especially if you have a family, if you have the chance to get out of this situation. I also wanted to touch on a little bit of misinformation that I've been hearing, or I guess not misinformation, but just there's been a perspective I've been hearing that have been bothering me, and I really, really wanted to say something about it. I've seen some comments from people saying that, oh, the lefties or the Democrats are super happy about this. Like they're glad that this is happening because it proves their point. Nobody is happy this is happening. Nobody wants people to die. Nobody wants these homes to burn. I don't care how rich these people are. It is a tragedy that they're losing their homes, that they possibly lose their families, they possibly lose their farmland, their animals, whatever is there. It is a tragedy. And to politicize this type of event is sickening. I cannot believe that people want to make this a political issue, and I do not condone that behavior at all. We need to support each other. We need to have compassion, and we need to understand that Mother Nature does not give a shit who you are. She doesn't care if you're black, white, female, male, if you're from a different country, if you're from here, if you're mentally disabled, or if you're perfect, like if you're like a model. Like, she does not care, because if Mother Nature if the conditions are right, it's going to affect everyone across the board. They've had schools burning down. They've had businesses burning down. They've been struggling to save historic buildings. They've been struggling to save mansions. I've seen condos get wiped out. I've seen just regular neighborhoods, just like the one I live in. Thank God I'm not nearby. I'm a roughly 3-hour drive away from Los Angeles. So I'm luckily out of harm's way, but it's still very, very, it hits close to home, because I do live in a wildfire zone. Just this morning, there was a wildfire roughly 15 miles from our house. And luckily they were able to stop it at 4 acres before it spread. But this is a possibility even for where I live. And it's a possibility for a lot of people, not just in California, Arizona, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, even on the East Coast, Vermont, New Hampshire, New York, any place that has forests or grasslands, large swaths of vegetation, you have the possibility of having a severe fire. And so you do not want to not take this seriously, not think that it can happen to you, because really preparedness is the best thing that you can do for yourself. It's to hope for the best, but to prepare for the worst and understand how you can keep yourself safe. Because when it comes down to it, the reason why preparation is so useful, it's because you've already overcome the mental barrier that can prevent people from saving themselves. Because when a person doesn't have the proper information and doesn't know what to do in a situation, their first response is to freeze. They sit there and they don't know what to do. They're like, do I go outside? Do I get my car? What do I bring? I don't know what to do. That is why you want to be prepared. No matter where you live, you should have an emergency kit. Whether you live near earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, fires, you want to have an emergency kit, and also know the risks of your specific area. Because if, God forbid, there is a time that you have to evacuate right away, you will know what to do. It will be automatic. You will be able to say, okay, I have my bag, I have my supplies, get my kids, go to the car. We know where to go, because that is life-saving. If you know what to do and you have a place to go, that will save your life. And I really, really want to emphasize it, because sadly, knowing what Santa Ana winds do, knowing what La Nina years are like, we're going to see more of these fires throughout the year. And the fact that this is happening in January is absolutely unprecedented. Usually, Santa Ana winds are most severe through July to roughly November. So the fact that this is happening in January is absolutely mind-boggling. And the severity of this fire is heartbreaking. I have seen so many news reporters this morning breaking down as they're talking about watching these homes burn and not being able to do a thing about it. And so I just really, really want to emphasize, if you're in those areas, please do your best to get out of harm's way, because you do not want to face these basically firestorms head on. You will not win. Just like a tsunami, except on fire. So you do not want to try it and test your luck with something like this.
You know, we as humans, we get so comfortable. We get comfortable in our little space, in our little bubbles. We don't think that anything can kind of touch us. And there's a couple of things that I want to go into here, but let me just address what you said, which is actually something that people should be taking a little more note to. Mother Nature is not a joke. Fire, water, it seemed basic. It don't really seem like it does that much harm to you until it's there. And then you don't know what the hell to do when the strong winds come. Right now it's just quiet and calm. You just got maybe a little slight breeze. But what happens when you get 50 miles an hour wind, 60, 70? She just said 600. Did you say 600?
No.
Something around 5.
Last night, the winds were, some of the wind gusts were between 90 and 100 miles an hour. They were wind gusts, so it wasn't like a sustained flow of air at 100 miles an hour, but there were temporary gusts of wind that were at basically hurricane speeds between 70 and 100 miles an hour. Usually the 100-mile-an-hour winds are more towards the peak of the mountains, but a lot of like Malibu and the Palisades and Silmar, they were having like 50, 60 mile an hour winds. That is like, imagine trying to run away from fire that's going as fast as a car on the freeway. That is not something that you're going to be able to escape, especially because it's not just like this thing coming at you. Like, there's the heat that comes in front of it. It will literally suck the oxygen out of the air, and you can die from asphyxiation even if you don't die from the flames themselves. So it's very, very, very dangerous.
That's a fact. I've never been in that type of situation before. I think the most experience I have with any of these elements is earthquake. The earthquake that happened. The earthquake happened where? Somewhere around Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was even further than that. It started somewhere. Virginia, and then it made its way all the way to Washington, D.C.
Yeah, propagated out basically towards Kentucky and New England.
That's crazy to me.
Oh, sorry. There's a little bit of a lag time. Sorry.
No, you good.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it. Like, it basically, the earthquake was between. I think they felt shaking in Boston, New York, down in Kentucky, and then they also had minor shaking in like North Carolina. So people definitely underestimate how big of an area even earthquakes can impact.
I don't sleep on Mother. I want to go back to something real quick because there was one clip that I had my eye on. It was probably about 10 minutes, and the newscaster was literally talking to the firefighter, the guy that was in charge at the location. He's like, "Where's the water? Why isn't there no water? Did you use up all the water? Did y'all not prepare for this? Why is no water coming from out of any of the fire hydrants? What's going on?" And one of the women who had a grandparent that was actually located at the house that they were trying to extinguish, she was like, "There's a water tank right down the street, around the corner. Why haven't they gone, and what's happening?" And then there was another video where they're trying to talk to the governor, The governor ignoring them. What's going on? Was you not prepared for this? Why isn't there no water? So my question is, how does that happen?
There's a combination.
How is it a situation?
One aspect is funding. There is not enough funding to pay for the resources that are required to fight fires that are this severe. Two, as I said, we don't have the manpower to fight all of these fires efficiently. In California, we do use prisoners to fight a lot of these wildfires. But when it's extremely severe, they try to limit how often they send firefighters in, regardless of who they are, because it would be too dangerous for them to go into those conditions. And so if the fire has gotten to a point where it has been deemed too dangerous to go inside, their only mission is to rescue. That they don't actually go in to put out the fires. They just consider that area a loss anyways. That's partially why this is such a tragedy, because large portions of this fire have been deemed too dangerous to save the homes. And so they've been mostly prioritizing the lives instead. And then when it comes to water, I wouldn't quite be able to say why in that particular instance they weren't using that the water tank. Possibly they didn't have equipment to like connect it to or something. But I'm not entirely sure why they wouldn't. They also might have just kind of, or if her house was not already on fire. But we are we have a lot of water shortages in California as it is. A lot of our water comes in those areas come from the ground. In San Diego, we're pretty lucky because they often just like take it straight from the ocean, and they are doing airdrops from the ocean, but more in the Inland Empire, they don't have as ready access to the water. And so they haven't had all of the resources that is required to put out something like this. And then also the other thing people don't realize is sometimes the fire can get so hot that water doesn't do anything, because as soon as you try and drop the water on the fire, it evaporates before it even touches the fire. That's why they often use flame retardant in their drops, the orange stuff that they drop on houses and stuff, because that's the only thing that's able to at least prevent the fire from spreading. Because when the fire is so strong and severe and wind driven, it's very, very hard to use water to put it out. It's basically just like spitting on a bonfire.
I think it's very strange. I have a number of issues with this, and one of them is, how do you not have funding?
California is.
I don't want to go into
regularly
politics. I'm not very how they. But my thing is, from what I understand, a lot of these are over $2 million, $3 million homes. This is a very expensive location. Most of them.
And I guarantee
how the hell don't you
are going to drop them too? The insurance companies are not going to cover this.
Oh, they don't care. I know they don't. I don't know any situation, especially in hurricane seasons and those regions that experience tornadoes. I don't think a lot of them people care. That's why I'm looking at them sideways. How do you not be prepared? I'm trying to be rational when I say this, like you've been there all your life. Most of them have been there all their life, so you already know this is what we get. We get fires, we get earthquakes, the tectonic plates shift, and all that shit. You know what happens where you at because you were born there. So how do you not at some point say we need to do something here to make things a little more safer? We can't protect or guarantee 100% that everyone is going to come out unscathed, but we can at least mitigate some of this to a certain extent. How do you not do that?
2 reasons. Lack of education, you're not paying attention, you don't care to learn about the risks that are around you, or denial, just not wanting to accept or like saying the idea behind, oh, I'll be fine, nothing will happen to me, that won't happen to me, that happens to other people. It's the same thing that affects I did my research for my bachelor's degree on the psychology of why people don't prepare for earthquakes. And I see the same type of ideology with fire, where people just don't think that they could be affected by that, especially if they live in suburbs, because a lot of people think like, oh, well, I live in the suburbs, so there's no way these wildfires are going to be able to get to me. But they don't realize, like, A, you can have embers dropping down onto your house, and B, it can easily come through and then as soon as it hits house, it'll go house to house to house to house. And so it's equally people not knowing anything about it, and equally them choosing to continue not knowing anything about it, or just being blissfully like, it'll be fine. If it does happen to me, I'll be able to get out. There's no problem. And that's exactly why I say have an evacuation plan, have a kit, have things set up for you. That way you don't have to do any thinking when the moment comes for you to leave, because people definitely underestimate how quickly a house can burn down. Like being in your house, you could look around and be like, take like an hour. It can be in minutes. You can be in a house fire and it would be engulfed in and be gone in like 5 minutes, depending on what your house is made of and what you have inside your house. So it's really, really crucial for you to have a plan in your mind for anything that could possibly affect you. Obviously, you shouldn't be spending all your time worrying about it, like sitting there like, oh my God, is there a fire? Is there an earthquake? Like, what am I going to... You should be realistic. Like, obviously, you're not going to have like an earthquake hitting you every single day. Like, there'd be times that you're more at risk of a wildfire than other times, but you still want to have a general idea of, if there's an emergency and I need to leave my house and I cannot come back to my house, what do I need? What do I need for the next 3 to 5 days? And that will be tremendously useful. And as I said, it can be life-saving if you have those plans in place. Definitely willful ignorance.
I'm going to, I was about to say, I'm going to go with willful ignorance. It made me think about 2012. I don't know why it made me think of 2012.
The movie or the year?
Scientists. We had this conversation. We had the scientists come to you and say, look, we need to do something about this. Man, you don't know what you're talking about. We the ones who, and then, okay, fuck around and find out.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And unfortunately, this is where we are.
And
to be honest with you, I think it's
this makes me also think back on Lahaina, which, if I remember correctly, also happened in January, I think, of last year, or maybe it was a different date. But with Lahaina, a lot of the people that were, and also the campfire in 2018 up in Mendocino County, these residents didn't even know there was a fire until their house was literally on fire because of the vegetation around them, and the fire came on so quickly that people didn't even have enough time to get out of their houses. So people definitely underestimate how quickly these things can flare up and approach you. And it doesn't always make itself apparent, especially like if you're on a hillside. If you're like on top of the hill and it's below the ridgeline, you won't really see much until it's already coming over and crusting over the hillside, especially if the winds are blowing smoke in the opposite direction. So you could have clear blue skies and then suddenly realize that you have flames behind your house. So it's very, very important to pay attention to the news when you live in these areas, especially during high risk time periods when we have high winds, extremely high temperatures, or lightning. If we had a severe lightning storm during the summer, that would also be a time for high wildfire risk. As I said, the reason why they're so severe now is because of our dry vegetation and then the Santa Ana winds. And that combination is obviously very conducive of creating a firestorm, basically. Also, if you are driving through areas that are prone to fire, make sure you don't have chains dangling off the back of your truck or your car, because those can actually spark wildfires. And then obviously, if you're like camping or you are doing something that involves fire, make sure you put it out fully before you're done with it, because many times I forgot what the number is. I want to say it's close to 80% of wildfires are started by accidental people mistakes. And then there's arsonists.
I'm not even going to touch my soundboard on that one. This ain't. I have a weird dark humor. Y'all might not understand, so I'm not even going to do that. But on a like seriously, if this doesn't, she gave you science. I'm going to give you religion and the spiritual perspective, because I see what she's saying and I get it. I don't dismiss it at all. This is very evident. What else is evident to me is that us as humans, we have gotten entirely way too comfortable.
Mm-hmm. More people
we've gotten
today
comfortable
than
with
ever before live on floodplains, on fault lines, in fire zones, on cliffs along mountains, along the ocean, and are crumbling. People are living on beaches. Because of our population size, we have a lot more people exposed to this, but also because it's the most beautiful places. Everyone wants to live on mountains. Everyone wants to live in forests. People want to live surrounded by nature, surrounded by beauty, but these things can kill you if they catch on fire or start to flood or fall into the ocean. So it's very unfortunately ironic that the places that we tend to choose to live also tend to be the highest risk zones for these types of disasters. So that's also partly why we are seeing more and more of these fires entering towns and completely wiping out entire communities, because we've built our communities into these dangerous places. I mean, obviously it's not the people's fault, because you don't always have a choice of where you get to live. But if you do live in those types of zones, as I said, keep yourself up to date. Make sure you have warning systems on your phone. For example, I have an earthquake tracking app, and I have the fire app that I showed you, just so I can be aware of what's happening. Like, I have already looked at what fault line. There's actually a fault line that runs right outside our house. There's a canyon that runs literally, like, our yard drops off into a canyon. That canyon is actually a fault line. So there's a fault line right behind my house. And knowing, like, obviously that kind of is scary, but knowing that also gives me some sense of peace, because I know what to expect, or I hopefully know what to expect if there is an incident, and I can also anticipate better what we might see if there is an earthquake. So it is very, very, very important. Information will be one of the best things that you can use to save yourself in any type of situation, whether it's political unrest or a natural disaster. Having knowledge of the mechanisms, how it works, what you can expect from the situation, and understanding the scope of what could happen from the best case scenario to the worst case scenario will help you. You don't have to prepare for the worst case scenario. You don't have to stock up on 2 years of food and build your house into this huge fortress and not let anyone in your house and like be all like crazy hoarder type like, you don't have to fear what's happening. You just have to understand what to expect.
She gave you the science. You can take it for what it's worth, or you can ignore it. I honestly hope and pray if anyone here is in those areas that they take heed to what she's saying. I do. Like I couldn't imagine being in that space. I could, like, everything just completely burns down around you. All that shit is gone. Just like that. And now you have to start over.
Mm-hmm. Especially starting over if you don't have the opportunity to have insurance pay you back for what you lost. A lot of people do not have that opportunity anymore. And it's devastating when you lose everything, especially if you lose a family member or if you lose a person. I cannot even imagine what those the people that are experiencing this right now are going through. My heart goes out to them. My heart goes out to everyone in LA, everyone experiencing these fires. And I pray for your safety. And I pray that it is just, I mean, obviously it's a tragedy for those 2 individuals that lost their lives, but I pray it's no more than that.
What I'm about to say, I've been, for the last 20 minutes or so, I've been trying to be very, very compassionate about how I was going to word what I was going to word and not come off any type of way. So I think the best way for me to kind of do this is to give my own personal experience to tie into this. So let me give y'all a quick scenario, right? I used to drink and smoke very heavy. And the things that came from it, I'm not proud of. When you have an addiction, your addiction takes over and it takes rule over everything, and you have no desire or compassion for anything other than getting your high or getting your fix.
Mm-hmm.
But in the transition of smoking and popping that bottle, in the exchange and the things that you get in return, you get a you get broken people. You break people. You mess them up mentally and emotionally because of your behaviors and because of your ego, your pride, and your arrogance. Narcotics alters how you treat people and how you treat yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a long stint of hurting people that were closest to me. And the way that I had to find out the hard way that what I was doing was hurting others, I had to feel what they felt. Now that doesn't mean I'm going to get the same payback in return. That's not how God works. It can be that, but it can be something much worse. And that's what happened to me. And you don't really think about it until you are at that breaking point in your own life in your own walk where you're thinking to yourself, is this all I am? Is this all I'm worth? Can I not be more than this? And I'm only saying this to say a lot of folks don't want to bring God into what happens, but I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say this has a lot to do with God trying to get our attention. In my honest opinion, because the only entity that is in control of the elements, the heavens, and any of it, he's the only one that's in control of it. I don't wish nothing bad on anyone. I think this is a humbling experience. I think this is a tragedy.
It'll be a wake-up call.
I think that it's absolutely a wake-up call. Your money don't matter. Your family should matter. Your relationship with him should matter. Your value does not come from your property and from your mansions and your fancy cars, and that's not where your value comes from. And you know why I feel as strongly as I do about this is because how the hell does one of the most expensive places in the world not have contingency plans for situations like that? Where's the money going?
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I think about is Hollywood, but you got all these homeless people out on the street.
Mm-hmm.
The stars all on the sidewalk. You got all you. I don't get it.
You literally
But
have homeless people sleeping on the stars. But when I went to Hollywood back in, I think it was like 2009, I literally saw homeless people up and down the street where all the stars were. And I was like, I remember thinking how dystopian it felt to see that. I'm like, you have some of the most famous people in the world on the ground alongside people that are being treated as if they aren't even human.
I don't know how many times I've been told it's not what it looked like. I believe it. I absolutely believe it. It's sad to me that you have to have tragedies and so much disaster for people to wake up and think about their life. Like, think about your life. You could die in this fire or not. But if you don't, you lose everything. Is it just the elements alone, or is there a bigger work at hand here? Because that same fire that's happening there could happen here. A flood could happen here. It could snow so bad that nobody could leave the house. We don't know where he wants to send anything. The first of all, the news is I don't trust the news anyway. Just because they guess when it's going to rain here, I don't mean God can make it. He can do whatever he wants with that. Send it wherever he wants. But I mean, that's just my opinion. I think this is one of those situations where a lot of us, first of all, respect Mother Nature, like she said, respect science a little bit more, put a little more respect on science.
Science is not just arbitrary. I always hear this all the time where people think that scientists are just kind of like, oh, look, patterns. Cool. We're going to fit these together. There's so much rigor that goes into science. It is built on generations of work. They don't just arbitrarily make up information and just like, oh, that sounds cool. I'm going to write this on paper and submit it. Like, there's so much that, like, I just got my master's last year. It took me a year to write 30 pages just for my project. And that's just a sad little master's project. Like, that's not even a PhD project or something like an entire manuscript book thing that they're like, they put so much into this science. So when and also most good reputable scientists will not put out the information saying this is exactly what's going to happen. Everything that I wrote is true. And so you should plan for all of these things. And this is exactly right and how it'll go. Most reputable scientists should tell you, here is the possibilities. Here are the likelihoods of these possibilities. This is what I think might happen based on these reasons. But here is the range of possibilities. That is really, like, science is a lot more intricate than people really realize. So when you hear things that are promoted by scientists, they have put like, there are obviously cases where they are not good people. Like, everyone there's in every type of career, there's going to be people that abuse the system, that are shitty people and promoting incorrect information. But scientists make their life on trying to provide information to people. It does not benefit them to give false information and to put out information that doesn't help people, because oftentimes scientists are scientists because they're deeply passionate about what they do. So it would not benefit them to falsify information and just say whatever to people just because. So a lot of this information has been thoroughly checked and verified before it had even reached you. So put a lot more trust in, we need to put a lot more faith and trust into science, because we've definitely had a culture, our culture has moved towards believing that science is more in the realm of fantasy. Like, it's just a story that they're coming up with to explain something. It's not just a story. It's thousands and thousands of data points put together using technology and human brains to figure out what are the patterns and what can we expect. And I really want to reiterate that, because a lot of people a lot of people that have been affected by the misinformation out there might look at scientists and say, oh, I don't have to listen to them because they're just lying to me. But I really, really want to emphasize that most scientists do want to ensure people get the right information. And so as long as you're getting your information from a reputable source, such as like a scientific website and whatnot, the chances are it's fairly accurate, unless they themselves are missing a certain piece of data. And then that's not even their fault. That's just how science works.
Yeah. 2025 really is an eye opener. You don't have to believe nothing that I'm saying. You don't even have to listen to her for real. I mean, like we just up here giving you what we feel, and she's more honorable in this field because she studies this. I like the fact that we can give you variations of different perspectives on it because I really believe that a lot of this all coincides. That's really how I feel about it.
I'm with you on that too. I've always felt that for me, 2025 has always been a year that stuck out in my mind because a lot of different scientific predictions align with 2025, ranging from there's a general 70-year trend when it comes to like population changes and cultural changes, because usually once the older generations die off, then a new type of culture takes its place. And we're hitting that because a lot of the boomers groups are going to be passing away in the next decade or so because of their age. And then also California is highly likely going to have an earthquake in the next like 5 years or so. And so I always thought like 2025 would be the year, but I always and then also the storms themselves. We are going through a time period with increased solar activity right now because we're in the sun is going through a solar cycle, and it's reaching the end of that solar cycle, and so it's intensified, and so that can affect our weather. It's not the only thing affecting our weather, and it's not the reason why these fires are strong, but it is something that does contribute. Additionally, the solar storms themselves can also affect us if we get hit by one directly. That's the right polarity. But I don't know, from all of the data that I've read over the years, I've always anticipated that 2025 would be a year for us. And this is definitely not a very good start. I'm not pleased to be right in this case. But I do worry, but that's also why I want to start coming out more and talking about this, because I don't want to fearmonger. I don't want people to be afraid. I want people to be prepared. I want people to understand their power of how they can save themselves in these situations. I want people to know what could happen. That way they aren't hit over the head if it does happen to them. And I just want people to be happy and safe. It's obvious, it's a tragedy that these people are being surprised by such a severe wildfire. But as we just discussed, it's a sign, whether from God or whether you want to attribute it to something else. It is a sign that if you have not prepared for a disaster, for a potential catastrophe, you really should. It does not matter where you live. You can get affected. It rains everywhere. You can be flooded out. The ground could fall out from beneath you because of a pothole or a landslide or a cliff collapse. You really don't know. And so you don't want to take your chances and expect that everything will be fine. You just want to make sure that you do the best to prolong your life if there's a situation that threatens it. And don't be stupid. Like, if you see the flames, don't try and put it out. Don't try and wait it out and sit in your house. Know that you won't win against Mother Nature. Just be realistic.
There's people who chase hurricanes and tornadoes, so like there's gonna be somebody dumb enough to do this shit.
Even seasoned professionals get killed. sadly.
Michael Irwin, is it?
Steve
I
Irwin.
can't remember. Steve Irwin.
Mm-hmm.
Rest in peace. But I'm not hunting animals and alligators and sticking my hand. I'm not doing that. I'm not. There was something I was going to say before that. Damn.
I was saying be prepared and don't be stupid.
Oh yeah. Imagine being in the situation that they're in right now. It's still hard to believe that a lot of those places look like zombie apocalypses. It looks like the scene of an apocalypse. It does. It looks barren. And then to think that this isn't even over yet. How much more?
It will probably take them weeks or months to contain these fires, especially if conditions persist. As I said, around the 20th, we're going to have another Santa Ana wind event, and that could make the fires even worse. That could create more fires. It definitely is going to take a bit of time before we start to see an improvement in these fires.
Absolutely. So, what I gather from this entire thing is, my heart goes out to these people. I've never been in a mansion or nothing like that. If I lost my phone, my heart would skip. If I couldn't find my earbuds or my earpiece, I would be in my feelings. So I already know that has to be way worse. First of all, be happy that you're still here. Be happy that your loved ones weren't on the wrong side of this. So I mean, like, I know there are some fatalities here. A few firefighters were injured. This could actually be a lot worse. That's the part that I don't want to even speak out loud, but it's the reality, because I don't think a lot of folks want to give up their homes.
Yeah. This is unprecedented. It is definitely not this is genuinely more severe than any fire we have really seen in decades.
Is there any? You pretty much gave them start to finish on what this is, how to prepare for it, why you should take this a lot more serious. Is there anything else that we are missing here with this? I don't want to leave nobody kind of stuck with, well, what now? Because I mean, there's going to be more developing stories. So I mean, I don't know. Is there anything else on your heart?
I mean, I pretty much said most of what I wanted to say. Like, really, just stay out of the wildfire areas. Don't try and go there and be a hero. Don't try and go there to be a looky-loo. You could injure yourself. You could injure other people. If you are in these regions and are not... 1 second. Everest, stop. My goodness. Toddlers. If you are in those areas, make sure you evacuate. If you are in an evacuation zone, make sure you have an evacuation kit ready. If, as I said, let me remember the name of the app again. Watch duty, again, if you want to track the fires, it will give you information about where it is and what it's affecting. You can see videos of it. It is very, very useful, especially if you are in those regions. It is real-time data, so you will be able to see as it's happening. So yeah, make sure that you're keeping up to date with these fires if you are in these zones or if you're close to these zones. And yeah, be prepared and pray for the best for all of these people, because this is only day 2, so it's only going to get worse until they manage to get a handle on this fire or these multiple fires.
Let me leave y'all with this. I did not expect in my life, I didn't expect COVID. That was not on my to-do list. I never expected that I would experience a virus that would spread worldwide and shut down everything for years. Never thought that would be me. I never expected to ever experience a earthquake because of where I live. Why would that come here? Why would a virus come here? I never thought the West Nile virus would reach here and kill people. You get killed by a mosquito.
And now there's H1N1 that just jumped to people.
Right. There are things that are happening that is out of our control. We can't control it. Doesn't matter how intelligent you are. Doesn't matter how many machines you make. It doesn't matter how much you try to ignore it like it doesn't exist. It's time to get your ducks in a row. Figure your life out. Figure your walk out, your calling, your purpose. What means more to you after this is over? What would you do if you were in this position? Millions, thousands of people lost folks to COVID. I caught it twice. I never thought I would ever catch it. I caught it. Something that I didn't even think was real. How the hell do I had coworkers that passed it and didn't tell us that they had it. You got people murdering every day. You got sex all over social media every day. People greedy. I mean, if you think about all of the negativity that is on the earth, what cleanses sin? Fire. Now, I'm not saying these people were sinners, but
maybe God thought they weren't paying attention.
Right. Exactly. Not to mention Trump. Three times they tried to. Three times. Once I was like, all right, they don't like him. I get that. The second time I was like, oh shit, this is but 3 times, all right. Okay. I hate you. This fire, looking at all of those houses burnt up in smoke, brought down to the floor, looking like I need to start picking 3 of my most useful tools just in case. If I don't have my clothes, I don't have shit. All I'm left with is whatever survival knowledge I know, that's what that looks like out there. And whether people believe it or not, at some point, Jesus will return. He will. I know he will. So, I mean, you can believe what you want. You know, it's all fun and games until you're in a position that you can't get away from. Disease, you got diseases, you got fires, you got floods, like a tsunami.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I don't know what's worse, fire or drowning.
Yeah, that's a pretty. I would say fire, but I wouldn't want to drown either. And I mean, tsunamis are something else too, because it's not just water. When you have a tsunami, it's boats and houses and rocks and human bodies. Like you, yeah, these natural, like you see the movies, but they're way worse even than even the movies portray, because like the smells, the things that you'll be exposed to.
Yeah. If a tsunami hit right now where we are, we are screwed.
Mm-hmm. Especially with all your rivers.
I don't see no way of, unless you can really hold your breath for a long time. I don't see no coming out of that one. And I suck. I can't swim that well.
Yeah.
But let me read some of these real quick, because Greg and my man Coat pretty much been in here active. Appreciate y'all. Louisiana case died recently. Apparently handled livestock and dead birds.
That was H1N1. The person that it jumped to an individual. H1N1 jumped to an individual in Louisiana, and that person has passed away. And they got it from handling birds.
Yikes. Yeah.
And that's the first case of human transmission. Before, it was just among chickens. It recently was able to jump to pigs and cattle. And because it can jump to pigs now, pigs and humans have the closest similarities in DNA when it comes to pathogens. So it is now transmissible to humans.
Ain't that something? Pigs and humans.
Mm-hmm.
They say don't cast your pearls to swine, right? One thing I do want to add too, for me, like if I ever decide to move somewhere, hopefully I'm in a position where I have the options to do it. I'm not. Do research on where you're going to live at. You seem to have been pretty smart in this regard. I remember what you said. You seem to have got like shout outs, but a lot of people don't really. They just move places just to move to them places, but you don't really have the historical information behind why you want to. I want to be in a space where I ain't got. Well, you can't avoid it either way, but give me the most optimal chance to have a healthy life for as long as God wants. Don't put me nowhere where there's tremors every other week or flash floods are in what's those things called? Not mudslides, and I'm cool on that. I won't, dude. I got you covered. But I appreciate y'all for pulling up. My thoughts and prayers out to the people of California. I hope after this that the government they figure this out. You should have water. From my understanding, this has been a problem. One of the neighbors was like, "Man, we've been having this issue for years." So maybe you want to revisit this and figure it out. Just a thought. But we about to get up out of here, man. I will see you guys tomorrow. I have Jason returning with us, and I have a special guest pulling up tomorrow. Yeah. Let's see how this goes. I'm excited to have this conversation. Greg, bro, you heal up. I hope you feel better. Mr. Coach of the Donuts, salutes to you. Let me give y'all Don DeMarco. Hold on. Come on.
Don DeMarco.
Everybody in the building, I appreciate you. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. Follow me on all platforms. Don't forget, you got to do this. You don't have to, but it's highly encouraged.
Push the goddamn button. Push the goddamn button.
You feel me? Y'all be easy though. I will see y'all tomorrow, Lord willing. And
thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
Yeah. There was a video I wanted to play. It wouldn't let me play it. I'm gonna revisit that one though, because it took me into an entirely different place. Y'all see what I'm talking about? Y'all be easy though. We up out of here.